Let's talk a little bit about overall budget issue, and that is, the part of the problem in the system is that whenever budgets are discussed, and certainly cuts, it becomes a little bit of the NIMBY. Well, cut in his district, but not mine. Cut in her district, or cut that program that they're fighting for, but don't cut mine. How do you see? What's your approach to how the city should overall deal with this budget process and fill that gap that's not only this year 1.9 billion to 1.3 billion, but 4 billion and change in the next fiscal
Correct.
year, 5 billion plus.
Correct.
What's your approach as to the mix of cuts and perhaps revenue devices?
Right.
Because most people that look at it seriously and not just hide behind the politics of it would say that it's got to include both of those things. Do you
Right.
agree?
I'm a realist, and I think I'm pragmatic in the sense that I understand it's a difficult time, and I understand that not everything can be kept whole. And when I have conversations in my district, I can say, I'm going to fight hard on behalf of my community. But realistically, you have to understand that not everything is going to be able to be maintained. It's just not feasible with the current climate that we have. Taking that into account, though, we got to really look at how certain communities might be impacted and the impact. If you are, having the brunt of service cuts and impacts happening in low-income, vulnerable communities, that doesn't seem fair to me. I don't think that would seem fair to the average person. So we have to also be, responsible in that sense that you're really minimizing the impact as much as you can to the most vulnerable communities. In that way, we are going through our budget process now, and what happens is that the mayor presents his executive budget. We in the city council have our hearings where we ask not only the agencies, we ask them questions to the commissioners about where are the cuts happening, what's going on, but we also ask the community and the people to come out and provide their perspective on what their thoughts are about that budget process and on the impacts. And then the city council negotiates with the mayor. Then we present counter proposals. We make our own recommendations about maybe where additional where cuts should happen.
What is Melissa Mark-Viverito's view about what has to be cut and what kind of revenue may have to be raised?
Well, that's the thing, going to the revenue source. So understanding the reality, we also believe, as co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, about fair share. Every community aspect has to have their fair share and contribute their fair share to the city of New York. Now, a lot of things we're strapped and our hands are tied as a council. We need state legislature approval in order to make certain decisions.
Yes, New York State controls a lot of what New York City is allowed to do.
So we got to get approval too. Yes. But we believe that we should be looking, and our speaker did mention this in her State of the City last year, that the restructuring of the income tax brackets. There should be some additional slight percentage increase for people that earn more than $500,000 a year. That, I think, is very clear, and we would like the leadership of the mayor to really talk about that. Everybody has to kind of roll up their sleeves and contribute.
But he doesn't seem to favor that approach.
No, he doesn't. He
right?
doesn't. He's basically said that Wall Street and the wealthy are off the table when it comes to options.
How do you get it back on the table?
We have to put the pressure from the community, the pressure from the people. We are taking that on as a Progressive Caucus because understanding that next year is going to be worse, that conversation and that pressure needs to start now. We don't believe we're going to resolve this, obviously, but we believe, and I've said this very consistently, that like President Obama pulled all the bankers into the room, and said, listen, we got to work on this together. The mayor has a sense of responsibility here to really tell everybody that you did well by New York City. Now you need to do, well to New York City by maybe giving in a little more or maybe talking about looking at other options. We believe there should be carried interest on the hedge funds should be taxed as regular tax as opposed to capital gains tax, which is charged only at 15%. So, these are different conversations that we're having, which we really would like the mayor to partner with us and say, look, everybody, there has to be more equitable responsibilities or more equity in terms of how revenue is being produced in the city and not have it the cuts and all the service cuts be falling on the backs of those that are really least vulnerable.
And if the mayor stands his ground and, for example, you would pass even a budget like that, that he would veto, he would prevent it. Do you think you have the votes, the council would have the votes to override and implement that, despite his opposition?
Well, in this case, we would have to, first of all, get approval from the state to do it. So the thing is that we need the mayor to kind of send the message and go to Albany and say...
So you do need his say-so, as it were, even to get it to be possible in the first place.
Right, we could take it as something that we would ask Albany to do, and we understand Albany pretty much is at a standstill, and it really takes a lot to
You're
get
being very
the most,
kind when you say standstill.
well, and it takes a lot to get the most minimal things out of them, it seems. But, you know, again, considering what we're looking at now, considering where we're heading next year, nothing should be off the table. We should be thinking outside the box. We should be asking everybody to provide a fair share. We really should be asking everyone to contribute to helping us through this crisis. And not any one sector should be immune to that or should be protected. Because obviously the families that are losing daycare, the children that are going to lose teachers in the classroom, the neighborhoods that are going to lose fire companies, you know, are not being protected right now. And that's the concern.